And welcome into the Detroit Lions News Podcast. I'm your host, Joe Chap. We got a lot to talk about. This is a Detroit Lions versus Buffalo Bills game, which is going to have a lot of things to say in terms of seeding or whatever the case may be. Detroit comes in as a 2.5-point favorite. It's going to be very, very special to talk Lions football with you guys today on the Detroit Lions News Podcast. As always, we will be podcasting this, and you can go listen to it. Go to Detroit Lions News Podcast on Apple, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts. Rate and review. I appreciate all the love that I get from you guys, because honestly, it doesn't happen without you. That's the reality of the situation. Like, there's a lot of content creators that think it's all about them. No, it's about you. I put the show together for you. I don't do it for me. I do it for you because I love to give back and I love to talk football with the fans. And this is what the great part about Detroit is. We have an energized fan base that has so much like knowledge. Like, you can't even say that they don't have knowledge. So it's great to talk with you guys today with the Detroit Lions News Podcast. And look, as always, we're going to talk about the Detroit Lions and the Buffalo Bills because the Buffalo Bills are coming here. And to be honest, the Buffalo Bills, they're going to come into Detroit. This is a pretty good matchup for Detroit's sake, because when you think about the Detroit Lions, like, playing a team like the Buffalo Bills is the best tune-up for the playoffs that you could potentially get. Think about it. When you tune in to whenever wherever you tune in on Sunday, think about it. You're going against the best quarterback in the league right now. Josh Allen is the best quarterback in the league right now. If you can limit him, there ain't no one in the NFC playoffs that's going to compare to Josh Allen. Not one person. I know a lot of people like Jalen Hurts. You ain't no Josh Allen. I know a lot of people like Jordan Love, which I don't, but he's no Josh Allen. Jane Daniels, as much as I love him, I picked him as Rookie of the Year. He's no Josh Daniels. You got to understand where you're coming from with this team, because if you could defeat Josh Allen, that's the best quarterback you're going to play all season long. So just think about it from that standpoint, because if you do that, you're going to be in a good situation. So, all right, let's just talk with the Detroit. Let's get into it. Obviously, we have a lot to get to. I have a big announcement that I'm going to announce pretty soon, so I'll do that right now. But as always, we got some things to take care of in the first part of the issue. So if you are going to the Lions game, there's a tailgate party happening at Three Kings Sports Cards and Collectibles in downtown Detroit, 1414 Griswold Street, Detroit, Michigan. It's right around the block from Ford Field. So stop on in. There's going to be food. You could buy jerseys, whatever the case may be. There's going to be a lot of fun there, so just stop in there. Billy Sims has a meet and greet on December 20th from 5 to 7, December 21st from 11 to 2 at 1977 West South Boulevard in Troy, Michigan. Live photos, merch, and more. A $6.99 pulled pork sandwich. That sounds excellent. A Christmas special, Detroit Lions football, $60 each. I mean, Billy Sims is an icon. The reason I bring Billy Sims up and the reason I bring his restaurant up is because we have a big announcement on the podcast, a huge announcement. Billy Sims will be doing an interview with the podcast. We're gonna do an interview with Billy Sims. We'll release it probably Christmas Eve or Christmas Day, one of the two, and we'll put it out. It's gonna be a great interview. We're gonna talk with Billy Sims. I'm gonna break it down. We're gonna talk about his life with his football career with the Detroit Lions, everything that happened in between. We're gonna talk personable too. I love getting to talk to people, and I love getting to talk to some of these athletes that I've been fortunate to talk to. So we will be doing an interview with Billy Sims, a great podcast. We will be posting it to the YouTube and our Spotify and everywhere we got the podcast, and we might post to Facebook too, but we'll see what happens with that. So that is that. That's the end of all the advertisements. Not really advertisements, but things we had to get to before the podcast. Let's just start with the podcast. So Detroit starts as a 2.5-point favorite over the Buffalo Bills. Now, I told you when we started this podcast, the one thing I said was, if you could beat Josh Allen the way that he's playing, you could beat anybody. Didn't I say that? I said that. I think that's the way it is. And when you think about what Josh Allen's been able to do this year, it's pretty unbelievable when you think about what he's doing through the air. This is through the rushing, though. He has 416 yards rushing, 9 touchdowns, 80 carries, averaging 5.2 per carry. He's an amazing player. Amazing player. Josh Allen's passing stats: 3,000 yards, 23 touchdowns, 5 interceptions, 76.7 uh, QBR. He's just been he's been phenomenal. Josh Allen's been the best quarterback in the league by far. I don't think there's a close second because what Josh Allen does on the ground, what he does in the air, I mean, it's just unbelievable. Like you think about what this guy is capable of. I mean, even people like to tangle chavances with Patrick Mahomes. Josh Allen has been having an amazing year. He's for the first time ever, he's limiting turnovers. So when you think about limiting turnovers like he has, doing the things that he has been doing in the air, on the ground, this guy's whole end all be all. And yes, this is like I said earlier in the podcast for people that were not listening. Um, this is as tough as a test as you can get. Josh Allen's going to test you through the ground. He's going to test you through the air. He's going to test you in every facet. And there's no quarterback that you are going to play down the stretch in the playoffs, in throughout the rest of the season, that's going to challenge you like Josh Allen's going to challenge you. Josh Allen will challenge you with the pass, the run. He's a fantastic quarterback. We know that. But the little intricacies that he has in his game, he's a gritty player. Even Dan Campbell loves Josh Allen. Like Josh Allen is he's a guy that you could really fall behind. He's a great quarterback. He does everything the right way, and he plays the game with like a kid like play. So he's been playing great. And you look at the stats, like Josh Allen, like even the passing yards, like we said, like 5 interceptions. I don't think anybody thought that he would have only 5 interceptions at this point in this part of the year. 23 touchdowns. He's having a phenomenal year. And then you look at like I don't know where it went, but you look at some of the things that he has on his repertoire, what he's been able to do. Look at last week. 6 touchdowns, 6 total touchdowns. I think he had 2 through the air. He caught a pass a couple weeks ago against San Francisco. This guy's the total real deal. If you could shut down Josh Allen, who can't you shut down? You know what I'm saying? Like you are going to be playing, in the playoffs. You're going to be playing Jalen Hurts, Jaden Daniels, Matthew Stafford, potentially maybe Brock Purdy, Jordan Love, Sam Darnold, Kyler Murray potentially. Brock Purdy, I said that, but Baker Mayfield, Kirk Cousins. Who is going to be better than Josh Allen? The key word is nobody. Nobody's going to be better than Josh Allen. So as far as you look at this with the Detroit Lions, is Josh Allen he's gonna really test the defense, and I can't wait to see this because if you are if you're a fan of the Lions, like we all are, obviously, if you're listening to this podcast, you're a pretty big fan. You love to see your team go against the best of the best. Because even though Detroit's not as fully healthy as they should be, Hutch out, Anzalone out, Barnes out, they are going to get healthy. We'll talk about that in a few, but you want to see your team go against the best of the best, and you want to see them show out. And if you can prove that you could limit Josh Allen, you're not going to stop Josh Allen. You will not stop Josh Allen. You got to limit him. He's one of the best quarterbacks in the league. He's gonna get his due. He's gonna throw some touchdowns. He's gonna get some rushing yards. That's just the reality. But you gotta limit him. It's not about stopping him. It's about limiting him. Because if you can limit him, it takes him out of the rhythm. It's when you play these great players, like when the Detroit Lions play Saquon Barkley in the playoffs, potentially, you gotta limit Saquon Barkley. That's what it comes down to. I'm sure teams, when they play Detroit, they're saying, we got to limit Goff. We got to limit St. Brown. We got to limit Jahmyr Gibbs. There's a ton of things to look at. But obviously, St. Brown's one of them. Jahmyr Gibbs is another one. The run game is one of them. But you look at some of these teams, like they have one focal point of their team. Like if you think about the Detroit Lions, they're multi-dimensional. They can beat you on the ground. They can beat you in the air. And then they can play some defensive ball because they're one of the better defenses in the league right now. In terms of fewest points allowed, I think they're 3rd in the NFL. So that just tells you everything you need to know about this Detroit Lions team. But when you think about it from that perspective, this game will really show where Detroit's at in terms of where their defense is at. And if you could stop Josh Allen or limit Josh Allen, like I said, it will give me very, very distinct confidence when you get an Alex Anzalone back. You get a Derek Barnes back. You're gonna get some players back, and if you can limit it now, you could do that later as well. So I mean, this sets up as a good thing for Detroit. I think that like a lot of us like we want obviously we want Detroit to stop the hell out of them, right? But that's just when you play a guy like Josh Allen, it's just not possible. You gotta limit him. So if they can limit him, they could stop anyone in the NFC. Anyone. You think about it like this: what quarterback in the NFL really scare in the NFC really scares you? Is it Stafford? Is it Baker Mayfield? You played them. You held them down. Was it C.J. Stroud? You played? I mean, I think there's only three quarterbacks that truly scare me in terms of the Lions playing them. It's Josh Allen. It's Patrick Mahomes, because I think Patrick Mahomes, no matter how good of a season he's having, not prolific or not, he's gonna challenge you. And Lamar Jackson, they're all on the AFC side. Maybe Jaden Daniels, but he's a rookie. You could throw some stuff at him and kind of get him off his game. But for the Lions, like they are in a great spot because this is a very good tune-up game. This is where you want this game before the playoffs. So if you could fix whatever you didn't do in this game, you could fix going into the Caleb Williams game against the Bears, Brock Purdy, Sam Darnold. You got some tune-up games. It's a great way to see where you're at as a franchise, where you're at as a team, and it's going to be fantastic to watch. We'll see what happens there. All right. So let's get to some comments. There's some comments on the board. Kurt says, sorry, Jordan, late. What was the big announcement? Kurt, we are going to have a interview with Billy Sims. So we are going to have a interview with Billy Sims at his restaurant in Troy. So Billy Sims will come on the podcast. We'll talk his life. We'll talk about the Lions. We'll talk about. I wanted to ask him questions about Jahmyr Gibbs, Dave Montgomery. We'll talk about all that. It's going to be a great podcast. I'm super ecstatic to have that, to be interviewing Billy Sims. So that would be fantastic. But yeah, it's going to be. Oh man, it's going to be great. Let's see. Anyways, so like I said, just limit Josh Allen. That's what you got to do. Let's go to. So the injury report came out. If you look, last week the Detroit Lions were totally injured. We all came into that game and we were like, "Holy crap! Like this could be really really bad." And the thing about it is Detroit weathered the storm. Detroit weathered the storm of the injuries that were piling up, and they won the game. That was the most impressive thing about beating the Green Bay Packers was the amount of injuries that you had, how many players that you had to rely on that were from the practice squad. I mean, look at a guy like Pat O'Connor. What a performance by him. He didn't put up many numbers, but he was very impactful. Like if you watch the game and you go watch it on the All 22 film, he was very, very impactful. It was very, very great to see because when you think about this team, what they've been able to do, when you see a guy like Pat O'Connor have like a pretty nice game, you're like, all right, that's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. But yeah, like they're gonna get healthier. Let me plug in this stupid. All right, cool. All right. This was the injury report right here. Trevor Nowaski, he's in concussion protocol. He was not listed Wednesday. He was no practice today. We'll see if he plays. I think it's outside shot. He's not going to play. I mean, a very good shot. He's not going to play. The concussion protocol is it could be back and forth. But Levi Onwuzurike was limited. DJ Reader was limited. And look at this: Taylor Decker, Aleem McNeil, and Josh Pascal, full practice. When you talk about when do you want to get healthy, you want to get healthy for the playoffs. And that's exactly what you have here. Josh, you're going to need all hands on deck, number one. And last week was an opportunity for the Detroit Lions to just move forward. Weather the storm of the injuries that are happening and potentially get to the next phase. And I love what Dan Campbell was talking about. He went on Sirius XM. We'll play you the clip. But he was on Sirius XM. He brought this up. So this was the thing. He said, "No excuses. Once you let him through the door, you're gonna play him. But I'm gonna play you the
We're
clip."
not taking excuses, and you can't, because once you let that in the door, then everything's an excuse, you know. And
Yep.
those guys, whoever you are, we're going to give you a chance to make a play and help us do your job, but you gotta hold up your end of the bargain and go balls to the wall.
So what Dan Campbell says right there is very, very key to know. We all know Dan Campbell doesn't like excuses, but I love what he said at the end of that clip. I love what he said at the end of the clip. I'll play it again after I talk about this, but he said, "We will put you in position to succeed. It's just up to you to go do it." That's what he said. And that was the most fantastic part about that game. The coaches put the players in a position to succeed. And the players ran away with it for the most part. I mean, think about a guy like Ezekiel Turner, the linebacker. Man, that was a fantastic game by Turner, and he made the play of the game on Jordan Love. That tackle on Jordan Love was fantastic. But again, listen to the last part of the clip. This is the most.
We're
That was
not
the most
taking
important.
excuses, and you can't, because once you let that in the door, then everything's an excuse, you know. And
Yep.
those guys, whoever you are, we're going to give you a chance to make a play and help us do your job, but you gotta hold up your end of the bargain and go balls to the wall.
You got to hold up your end of the bargain. That's what he says, and that's the way that culture is. When you think about culture, that's what culture is. When things go wrong, when injuries mount, and you got to have players ready to play. Dan Campbell and that coaching staff, they put him in a place to succeed, and it's ultimately up to them. And that's how you build a culture. Like all of us Lions fans for years, we were waiting and hoping for a guy who could rebuild the culture of the Detroit Lions. We were hoping that they could rebuild the culture of the Detroit Lions. We heard it so many times from so many different people. Rebuilding the culture. We're gonna rebuild the culture. None of them really rebuilt the culture. They just made it up. They were saying, "Oh, we're gonna rebuild the culture." But Dan Campbell has done it, and that was the no excuses. And once you let him through the door, everything is an excuse. I love that line, man, because that's a line that people should use throughout life. Life. Once you let excuses come through the door, it's gonna happen all the time. But the Detroit Lions are getting healthy. When you think about Pascal, McNeil, Decker, full practice. You think about Levi Onwuzurike and DJ Reader practicing even as limited as they were. Tomorrow's going to be Friday, a big day for practice in terms of where they're going to be. It's going to be very, very interesting. So we'll see what happens there, but you got to love the way this has gone down. So very good there. But let's get to some comments now. Oh, Kurt is asking, are you a season ticket holder? What did you think of the prices? I'm not a season ticket holder, but I was I heard about the season ticket prices. And it's interesting because when people talk about the season ticket prices for the Detroit Lions, like I'm worried in one phase because I think that if they keep raising the price, what they're going to get is they're going to take out the rabid fan. I think one of the things that Detroit has up their up their what they're doing is they got the best fan base in the NFL. And you worry about having too many people get taken out of their seats because prices are astronomical, and you think about the people that are going to go into those seats. I'll give you an example. When the Detroit Red Wings were going through the playoffs multiple years, this was told me by a guy who had season ticket for the Red Wings, and he told me basically the way it went was for the first couple years when they were riding that wave of being a good team 96, 95, 94, 97, 98, 99, that the Joe was alive. The Joe was just it was a rabid place to go and try to go play in. And what happened was they raised ticket prices astronomically because the 2002 team was full of Hall of Famers. It was full of people that were, you wanted to see. And, I feel like the team is obligated to raise prices to the average of the NFL. Yeah, I do think that they should do that. But for the average fan, like you got to think about your target market. Um, it's an interesting situation for many reasons because when you talk about like Kurt just said it, uh, i- um, here he said, but if we are forced to resell, we are inviting opposing fans to take over Ford Field. I wouldn't even worry about the opposing fans, Kurt, because what I think, what happens with these is like you see with Seattle too. I talked to a person from Seattle and when they were going through the Legion of Boom area where they were going to a Super Bowl and everything. He said something that was interesting. He said, first couple years of the Seattle, when their run, that place was unbelievable. It was still unbelievable going forward, but it was not like it was. And I fear that if the Detroit Lions keep pushing their fans, they might push some fans out. And I feel like that could be a really bad situation for the Detroit Lions because this is a fan base that has waited a long time to win a championship, a long time for realistic, great football. And should the Lions capitalize on it? Yeah, yes, they should. It's a business, obviously. But at the end of the day, you got to think about what what your team is going to be capable of. And if you force people out and you get people in the seats that don't cheer, they don't do nothing, then you open yourself up to be a morgue. That's what they say in Toronto. I don't know if you guys follow Toronto Maple Leafs hockey, but if you watch them every game, if you watch a game of them, just go watch a game, especially a playoff game. Least rabid fan base I've ever seen in a playoff game. Why? Because it's so expensive to go to games. You see more action on the road. You see, going to Buffalo, Toronto fans are rabid over there because they can't afford to go to their own home stadium. That's what I fear for the Detroit Lions. I fear that if they continue to raise prices, that could be a realistic, thing. If you look at ticket prices right now, they're astronomical. Like I was looking at a standing room ticket today that was $420. I mean, the market's telling you one thing, and like, look, there's also a side of this where if you don't up the prices on the Lions side, it becomes a ticket that people like to use against you. Like you will see tons of scams. We've seen tons of scams with Lions tickets already. So you got to raise prices for that reason alone because what's happening with the scams going around, it's just astronomical. The second thing is you're hoping that you don't lose your fan base that, this rabid uh, fan environment that they have at Ford Field because that's one of the reasons that Ford Field is the toughest place to play in the NFL. You hope you don't become, the Toronto Maple Leafs in the playoffs where you go there and it's like a morgue. So it's going to be interesting. It'll be interesting the way it plays out. Obviously, I think they're moving a little bit too quickly for my liking, but I know they have things to do, and I know that even like you talk to fan bases like Chicago, they pay a lot. You talk to fan bases like New York, they pay a lot. Vegas, they pay a lot. So we're becoming one of those teams, man, and they got it. If they don't raise the prices, what happens is the scams are just out of this world. Like eventually people need to realize that like if you see a ticket for $150 in a group, don't buy it. It's probably a fake. Just the reality. Um Bills tickets in my section are $750 on resale. Holy shit. You know what? Uh this is what but I'm guessing you're lower bowl. So that's what I see because I went on the Game Time app and I seen 450 for a standing room only ticket. Insane. Um, but you're going, so you're gonna be watching Super Bowl. There's gonna be plenty of chances for you to sell a game where you're gonna make your money back. I think that's the way it's gonna go. 136. Oh, that's dude. Those are great seats. I like 136. I like the one like 117, 118. I like those. I like the one closest to the atrium. Those are great seats. Phenomenal seats. I'm jealous. I really am. I love going to. First of all, I'm a bigger guy. Okay, I'm like 6'1", and like 240 pounds. So me and the upper bowl do not mix. So that ain't happening. So it was what it is. But those are great seats. Um, yep. So that's what I gotta say about that. It sucks that we have to talk about the ticket prices and everything like that. But hopefully people can afford them, and hopefully we can just we can keep the Ford Field as energetic as it is, and hopefully all those people that can pay the astronomical prices, hopefully they come to cheer and not be a bunch of losers, because that's what you usually see when you talk about raising prices, and then you get this whole group of crowd who they just come for the atmosphere. It's like, bro, nope, you are at a Lions football game. You better bring your effing voice. I don't care what you do in your real life. You better bring your voice. I tell this to people all the time. People all the time, they'll tell me like, "Oh, I'm going to the game for the atmosphere." Well, you're a loser if you go to the game for the atmosphere. You're going to help. You're going to affect the team. You go on that team. When the Lions go on defense, you better be raising your voice. You better have no voice by the end of it. That's just my thing. Oh, hell yeah. Well, if you can't if I can't find someone to go to the playoffs with me, I'll let you know. Hey, let me know. You can message me anytime. You could even add me on Facebook, man, at Joe Chap, and I love you. Seem like a great guy. So just add me. We'll talk football all the time, anyways. All right, let's get to what I was going to talk about here. This is a spread for the for Sunday's game. Detroit's a 2.5 point favorite. Um, Over under is 54.5. You think about these two teams; they are the highest scoring teams in the NFL. It's truly just amazing to watch. The let me pull it up right now. But they're 1-2. They're literally 1-2. I'm gonna pull it up right here. The Detroit Lions are second in fewest points allowed, and then if you go to most points scored, Detroit is 417. They're first in the NFL, and the Buffalo Bills have 397. They're second in the NFL. So that's just great to see there. But here's where we got to go with on this game right here. When you talk about these two teams, you're obviously talking about these two quarterbacks, and I'm going to pull it up right here. But um, when you talk about these two teams, you just think about these quarterbacks, the players that could definitely make an impact on the game, and what they could do. And let me pull it up. So I don't know why some of these didn't add up, but I'll get it up here. All right. Um, Damn it. All right. We're gonna have to work on this. But anyways, this obviously the spread right now is 2.5. We're gonna see what's gonna happen with this game, but it has to be better than it was. And these two teams they're playing out of their mind. So it'll be interesting to see what happens there in terms of the spread and how this game goes. But you always got to be interested in the way that this team goes. Okay, wrong one. Um, but that's the way it goes. I'm trying to add these things. There's a couple of ones that didn't get added to the list, so I'm going to add them right now. These are the two odds-on favorite. Um, Let me see if it's going to add it. Technology is stupid sometimes. I'll tell you that. All right, we're good. So you look at these two teams, and you look at the three leaders and receivers. You got your quarterbacks right there. You got your running backs right there, and you got your wide receivers, the leaders in the receiving, rushing, and passing. You really can't see nothing different. I mean, look at Jared Goff, 25 touchdowns, 10 interceptions, a QBR of 72.4. Josh Allen's been phenomenal. He's been having a great year. Josh Allen and Jared Goff have been cooking this year. Jahmyr Gibbs has been one of the best backs in football. 178 attempts, 10 TDs, 5.7 per rush. He has 1,000 yards already. You look at Amon-Ra St. Brown. Nothing needs to be said for the Bills. James Cook has been excellent. He hasn't been great, but he's been excellent. Khalil Shakur is a problem in the slot. He's gonna be manned on with Meek Robertson all day, and it's gonna be interesting because when you think about this game and you think about the mismatches that could happen in this game, what is going to happen in this game in terms of the mismatches that each team can exploit. So let me bring up this mismatch. This is for the Detroit Lions. So the Detroit Lions mismatch for the against the Buffalo Bills is the Detroit Lions short passing game against the Buffalo Bills short passing defense. Short passing defense for the Buffalo Bills is 28th in the NFL. For the Detroit Lions, it's second. Their short passing game is second in the NFL. When you think about a mismatch that could potentially be laid, that is a mismatch that you look at because when you talk about mismatches and you talk about what Detroit could do in terms of their short passing game, like Rasul Douglas is having a horrible year, and I look at their reception percentage. There's not one cornerback that has given up less than like 71% of passes. Like I mean, not 61% of passes. It's amazing. It's truly amazing. Their short passing defense for the Bills is awful. And you could really take advantage of that with, especially with St. Brown and JMO and Tim Patrick and Sam Laporta. And then there's this statistic. This is a huge statistic here in terms of the game that you're going to be playing against um, the the um, the Buffalo Bills. So Buffalo has allowed 74 receptions to God, where did this my technology is just messing me up today. Um oh Jesus peace. Anyways, I gotta get it out. Anyways, passing when you're passing to the running back, they've struggled all year long. Like it's amazing when you talk about what the Buffalo Bills have struggled with defending the pass with the running back. They allow the most receptions to running backs out of the backfield, which is you really wouldn't think was a big deal, but when you have Jahmyr Gibbs and you have Dave Montgomery, it's a huge deal. They're allowing the most yards per attempt. Here it is. 95 pass attempts to opposing running backs is the most in the NFL for against the Buffalo Bills. They've allowed that. They've allowed 74 receptions to opposing running backs, second most in the NFL. 579 yards to opposing running backs, third in the NFL. This is where I think Ben Johnson can scheme up the game because what's going to happen is Detroit's going to have to keep Josh Allen off the field. That's the way this game is going to go. And when you look at what they got to do, short passing is what the Buffalo Bills they're horrible at, and they're not good at covering the running back. So you could use their short passing as an extension to your run game. And this is a chance for you to take time off the clock, keep Josh Allen off the field. That's the most important part. If you can keep Josh Allen off the field, you're going to have a chance to win this game outright, period. Because winning time of possession is huge in the NFL. And winning time of possession against a guy like Josh Allen is the biggest thing that you could do in terms of the way that you are going to be playing Josh Allen. You give Josh Allen a million chances, he's going to burn you. He's going to burn you. He's a great quarterback. He's at an MVP level. And this quarterback matchup with Josh Allen and Jared Goff is just fantastic. I mean, do you talk about offensive TDs for Josh Allen? 32 pass yards at attempt 7.7, 23 touchdowns, 5 interceptions. Jared Goff, 26 total TDs, 8.6 pass yards per attempt. So he's attempting more than Josh Allen. And then you think about the passing, obviously 25 touchdowns, 10 interceptions, 109.1. That's a top 5 right there in the passer rating. So this game boils down to taking time off the clock, not allowing the Buffalo Bills to be on the field a lot, because if you allow them to be on the field, Josh Allen will burn you. So that is the mismatch of right there. The Detroit Lions short passing game, the Detroit Lions passing to the running backs, the opposing, the Bills have not done good against the running backs. But if you're looking for what the Bills can do to the Detroit Lions, this is the why you have to keep your defense off the field as much as possible. You have to win time of possession. Look at this statistic right here. Rushing in the red zone. The Bills are second in the NFL. The Buffalo Bills are second in the NFL. The advantage to the Buffalo Bills. The Detroit Lions rushing in the red zone defense is 22nd. The reason this team is so powerful in the red zone in terms of the rushing game is because of James Cook and Josh Allen. They both can run the ball. Josh Allen's been on a heater with his rushing TDs. I think he's scored a rushing TD in the last 6 games. So when you get down to the red zone, you're trying to defend the run. Not only do you have to worry about their running back, James Cook, because James Cook has played outstanding, you have to worry about this quarterback, Josh Allen. And if the Detroit cannot maintain their rushing lanes, look, he might get one, but you got to limit this guy. You can't let him get out there and score 2 rushing touchdowns. You can't do what happened with the LA Rams where they allowed 6 total touchdowns to this guy. It's you're playing with fire. You're literally playing with fire. So Detroit has to do what they have to do. They have to run the ball. They have to keep the ball away from Josh Allen. And when they get in the red zone, they have to worry about not allowing Josh Allen to run the ball inside the red zone. Because when Josh Allen is getting himself going, you're talking about Josh Allen potentially doing Josh Allen things, and that's not what you want to do. So that's something that Detroit has to maintain. So we'll talk about that there. But let's talk about Jack Campbell for a minute, because Jack Campbell, this guy is playing out of his mind. He's truly playing out of his mind. Jack Campbell is playing at an all star level. And you think about you're missing Alex Anzalone right now, Derek Barnes. Jack Campbell has been the 9th best linebacker in football. His coverage grade, I think it was 6 in the NFL. But they're doing a good job. Let me pull it up. So I got the statistic right here. I always hate with this. All right. When the Lions get Alex Anzalone back, they'll officially have the 6th best coverage linebacker in Alex Anzalone. And they pair that with the 8th best linebacker in football and coverage. That's Jack Campbell, who is also the 6th best linebacker in football in the run defense portion of the game. And he's the 9th best linebacker overall. Jack Campbell has been huge because when you think about you lose Alex Anzalone, you lose some of the players that you've lost in terms of your defense. Jack Campbell has been a major part of this team. Like, you think about it like this: where would the Detroit Lions be without Jack Campbell? It can't be understated. They lost Malcolm Rodriguez. They lost Derek Barnes. They lost Alex Anzalone, who wears the green dot on his helmet. And Jack Campbell just steps in, and he's the 9th best linebacker in football. It just tells you everything you need to know about this team. It tells you everything you need to know about this organization in terms of developing talent. And the Detroit Lions are doing a damn good job at that. And you gotta love what they're doing in terms of that. But it is what it is. They're playing pretty well. And Jack Campbell is a major part of it. He's a major part of the run defense. He's been good in coverage. His Pro Football Focus grade is 8th in coverage. So he's a top 8 linebacker in football in terms of coverage. He's 6th best in the run game. You can't get better than that. All right, let's get to some comments that we got in the comment section right now. What the hell is going on here? I always love when these scammers come on the comment section. They come on the comment section and they talk about nothing. It says NBA. I have no idea what this guy is saying, but or girl, but it's pretty brutal. Gets them hooked on phonics. Tyler, I miss you. Hi Joe, I miss you. I miss you too. You don't text me anymore, so you know what? Whatever. You should come out. We'll do a game day, a post game podcast after Sunday. Come on, let's go. Let's do it. Someone posted that Shakira would light up Robinson. Robinson posted on this thread to bring it on. I do have that tweet. It was a guy who was a betting guy, a guy who talks about betting and prop bets, right? And when you talk about prop bets, you think about Cleo Shakir. he's been a really good player to put a prop bet on. Truly has. He's a guy who gets 40 yards easy, and he's a slot merchant. George Pickens called Amon-Ra a slot merchant. I have no idea what that means. I think that's a good thing when you're a slot merchant, because that obviously means that you're pretty damn good at your job. And Khalil Shakur is a damn good wide receiver. He is a problem. Fortunately for Detroit, Amik Robertson has been really good. He's been really good, and don't be surprised if they bring Brian Branch in there to on crucial downs to defend Shakur, because he is a real problem. He was a real problem at Boise State, and he's a real problem with the Buffalo Bills right now. Andrew Harris says we need to run it and control the clock. Yeah, exactly, Andrew. We need to run and control the clock, because when you think about this Buffalo Bills team, you give them multiple opportunities to be good. They're going to take it and they're going to run with it. That's just the way it goes. Josh Allen is Andrew Harris says Josh Allen is our biggest threat. Yeah, he's a total threat, and he's a total pain in the ass to deal with. But if you could deal with Josh Allen, you could deal with anyone. That's been my understanding this whole time, is if you could deal with Josh Allen, you could beat anyone in the NFL. He is the best quarterback in the NFL this year. Is Emmanuel Mosley ready to go for real this time? It's a good question. I don't know. I mean, every time you hear him, he's going to come, he's going to play. You see the inactives, he's on there. I don't know what to say. I hope he plays, because I'm rooting for it, because I feel bad that he's been in this situation. Like, I feel bad that he got injured on the first play that he came back from. Like, it's been brutal for him. Like, some people talk about, potentially being injury riddled or something like that, but in my opinion, I just don't think that, a lot of people, they don't really, sometimes they struggle with it. So it is what it is. Andrew Harris says Josh Allen is grit. Yeah, that's, Dan Campbell has said this, that this guy really is a gritty player. He's a tough player. He's a physical player, and he just praises Josh Allen more than any quarterback that I've seen Dan Campbell praise. So if Dan Campbell's giving this guy praise, he's worth it. And the Northern Savages from Andrew Harris. Darcy said, "Happy anniversary." Yeah, it was my anniversary for me and my fiance. So that's why I didn't do the podcast yesterday with him. I didn't do the podcast yesterday. I was going to do the podcast yesterday, but potentially, obviously, I had some things going, and obviously, I'm learning through this whole thing, being engaged. I'm learning that, like, if you don't do things that she wants to do, you're in for a bad time. So I'm kind of, it's kind of like the Lions and controlling the clock. I gotta control what I can control, and I gotta make sure that someone's happy, because if it's not, then we're in trouble. All right, let's get to the next one. Obviously, we went through all of the things that, the the mismatches, but the one player that I've been most surprised by, and I don't know if anybody else has been surprised by him. I've been truly surprised by him, is Carlton Davis. Carlton Davis is having a great year, but you look at the statistic right here. Since week 9, Carlton Davis is PFF's top-rated cornerback with an overall defensive grade of 83.1, a minimum 100 snaps. His coverage grade of 86.4 is also number one. He has allowed a passer rating of 56.3 over a stretch, better than all but 11 cornerbacks. And you think about this guy, Carlton Davis. Carlton Davis was traded here from Tampa Bay. I liked him in Tampa Bay. I thought Carlton Davis was a phenomenal cornerback coming out of Auburn. I thought Carlton Davis was, someone that, you would hopefully, I thought the Lions were going to draft him when he was coming out. So when they got Carlton Davis, I was very excited. I was very happy with that. Carlton Davis has been a huge part of this team, in terms of his impact on Terrion Arnold, because you can see an impact on Terrion Arnold because they both play a similar game. A lot of people they always say something about the pass interferences. When you're the number one team in deep passing and you give up a pass interference once in a while, I'll take it. I'll take it. Just is what it is. You're not always going to do things that you like to do. Yeah, you're not always going to dictate terms. So for the Detroit Lions, when the Carlton Davis is playing good and all that stuff, and Terrion Arnold's playing good, you love to see it. You truly love to see it. But it's great to see both these guys play good. And with Carlton Davis, with the statistic I just gave you, I posted on the Lions page a couple days ago, and I'm just surprised at how good he's doing, how good Terrion Arnold's doing, and how good the secondary in terms of the way that they've been playing, they've been doing. So it is interesting. But when you look at this secondary and you look at them playing Josh Allen, what do they got to do against Josh Allen? Now, a lot of people, when they talk about Josh Allen, they talk about he could throw deep, he could throw over you, and he can throw over you. But if you look at the statistics here, um, he's only throwing deep passes 14.2% of the time. He's throwing medium passes 10 to 19 yards 17% of the time. Most of his passes are short passes 40.2% of the time. He's completing 77% of those passes, 10 touchdowns, 1,100 yards. And look, a lot of people they look at Josh Allen and they go, "This kid is really good, right?" We all know Josh Allen's really good, but you look at the throws that he's making, the attempts, look at the attempt percentage. 40% of 60% of these passes that he's throwing are short or behind the line of scrimmage. Short or behind the line of scrimmage. He's got 14 total touchdowns off that. It's not what we're used to with Josh Allen. When people think about Josh Allen, they look at his, downfield. He could throw a ball downfield and do some damage. But overall, like this year, he has not had a touchdown over 20 yards. He's had touchdowns at the zero, line of scrimmage to 9 yards. Look, he's had 2, 5, 2 over there. Then he's had 3 at the 10 to 20 mark, and he has had none in the deep passing part. So when you talk about Josh Allen, like I think a lot of people they look at Josh Allen, they say this guy can throw deep, this guy can make you pay deep. But the reality of the situation is Josh Allen hasn't thrown deep this much. And you look at 60% of his passes are short or behind the line of scrimmage. That's not what you're used to with Josh Allen, but he's having a phenomenal year. He's having an MVP type year. And the reason he's having an MVP type year is because he's taking throws that are easy to him. And Khalil Shakur is a big part of it. He's a slot guy. He's a guy that's like kind of like Amon-Ra St. Brown. He's an all hard work guy. And these two teams, the Buffalo Bills and the Detroit Lions, they literally match each other blow for blow in terms of the way they play the game. It's phenomenal to see. All right, let's get through. There's a comment we're going to get to. So the question today, with 6 carries of 20 yards from the run backs and Josh Allen for 80, does AG spy? Does AG spy? That's a good question, Darcy. I think with Josh Allen, you could do the spy, but I think the spy has to be able to run with Josh Allen, and there's not many people that are going to be able to run with Josh Allen. So what you're going to have to do is you're going to have to maintain your rush lanes. I think that's the most important part. You look at I was watching the LA Rams game, and one of the things that they did that was very, very interesting in terms of the way that they were defending Josh Allen was you would see them lose their rush lanes, and then Josh Allen just gets out there. He's too smart. If you don't maintain your rush lanes, he's gonna beat you, and he always does. He always does. He's a phenomenal quarterback. When the pocket breaks down, he'll find a way to get out. And if you're a defensive tackle, if you're Darius Smith, or you got a guy out there who wants to cut inside, he's gonna go outside. If you cut outside, he's gonna go inside. So maintain your rush lanes is gonna be the name of the game, because you could do a spy, but if you're doing a spy, you're taking one player away from potentially covering, and then you're gonna have issues if there's a mix in coverage. So I think they got to maintain the rush lanes. That's the biggest part about it. You do a spy. Potentially, what you're doing is you're gonna have a spy on him. You're gonna take someone away in coverage. Josh Allen is gonna exploit that. He's gonna exploit that. That one guy that is out of coverage, that is not in coverage, he is going to exploit that. He's just too smart. He's too good. This is not a quarterback that is a running quarterback. This is a guy who can beat you with his arm and his legs. So it's kind of like what do? You gotta limit this kid and limit his time of possession. And that's the way it goes. I mean, a lot of people, they talk about it all the time on um, some of these shows on NFL Sirius XM radio, like Pat Kerwin always talks about it. You got to limit these guys, and you got to hold them down. And if Detroit could do that, they're going to be in a good situation. But ultimately, Detroit has to hold Josh Allen to a considerable amount of. They got to hold him down, limit what he can do. He's going to get yards through the air, through the ground. You're just going to have to allow it, but you got to limit him. You got to limit his time of possession. You got to limit his possessions overall, because Josh Allen is the best quarterback in the league right now. He's MVP, in my opinion, and there's not much you can do about that. All right. Andrew Harris says he's playing smarter. He lost Diggs, but yet numbers have gone up. Here's what I think, Andrew. This is what I think about Josh Allen. I think losing Stephon Diggs was necessary for Josh Allen to reach his full potential. Because when you think about Stephon Diggs, the one thing you notice about Stephon Diggs, wherever he goes, he's a pain in the ass to deal with. He's a total pain in the ass to deal with. And when you talk about Stephon Diggs and his diva-like behavior, I have a feeling that kind of played its way into the play of Josh Allen. And give me the ball, Josh. Give me the ball, Josh. Like, if you hear that, you're going to try to give him the ball, and you're going to be forcing the ball. I like wide receivers that are not arrogant. Like, if you get 3 targets one game, but you get 6 the other game, it's okay. You're going to be fine. St. Brown does that all the time. St. Brown, he'll get 2 targets in one game, he'll get 7 in the next, or 10 in the next. And he doesn't care. He just cares about winning. Like, just a lot of these wide receivers, it's an epidemic in this league. They don't care about winning. They care about their numbers. So it is what it is. Andrew Harris says, did Reader practice it? Yes, Reader did practice today. I'll pull it up right here. He was a limited practice, which is good because it's Thursday. Obviously, when you get to Friday, that's going to be your full potential. I think what we're going to see is Reader will be questionable tomorrow when the injury report comes out, but I think he will play. He was trending to play last week. Then you heard this week he might not play this week, and you're like, what the hell was going on? And then you look at DJ Reader, he's limited in his practice. And so is Levi. And if you can get Levi and DJ back, that's a huge help to this defense. Huge. Because Levi can play he can play the edge position too. And he is a guy who could stop the run. So if Levi could play, that could be huge too. But Levi is dealing with a hamstring injury, but you like seeing Josh Pascal back to full practice, Lee McNeil back to full practice, and Taylor Decker back to full practice. All right, so let's talk about the mismatch also with the Buffalo Bills. So this is the best on best in terms of what you're talking about. Josh Allen has completed 58.7% of his passes against the blitz this season, recording 969 yards and a league-high 14 touchdowns. Allen has also recorded 123.8 passer rating against the blitz this season, which is the 4th highest in the NFL. Allen has been pressured on just 36.7% of his dropbacks against the blitz, which is 8th lowest in the NFL, including a 4.2 sack rate, which is 7th lowest in the NFL. The matchup here, though, is the Lions that blitz at the 4th highest rate in the NFL this season, 36.4%, but have generated the 7th lowest pressure rate when doing so, 38%. The Lions have also allowed just 4 touchdowns and forced 7 interceptions while blitzing this season, the 2nd most interceptions in the NFL. So when you think about this game, and you think about this team, and you think about this is a best on best type matchup, this is what you're talking about. The best on best. Detroit likes to blitz. Josh Allen's good against the blitz. We're gonna see who's the best. And obviously, Josh Allen's gonna make you pay one time. But the thing about it is, Aaron Glenn's not gonna really get scared, and I think that's the most important part because you can't coach scared. You want to coach scared? Go coach high school. Go coach little league. You want to coach scared? That's what you should do. We all know Josh Allen is a pain in the ass. He 23 touchdowns, 5 interceptions, a QBR of 76.7, and rushing yards, 416 yards, 9 touchdowns. We all know that Josh Allen is one of those guys that it's tough, but you gotta hold on to what you can hold on, and I think that's the most important part. So as we look at the Buffalo Bills, just we'll end the podcast in a few. Um, but when you look at the Buffalo Bills, let's look at the Buffalo Bills on offense. So you look at the Buffalo Bills on offense, total yards, they're 14th in the NFL, 359.7 per game. Passing yards, 229.3 per game, which is 12th best in the NFL. Rushing yards, 125.7, which is 11th best in the NFL. And then you think about points, 30.5, that's second best in the NFL. And a third down percentage of 43.4, that's eighth best in the NFL. And Pro Football Focus ranks the Buffalo Bills 80, or gives them a PFF grade of 80, which is eighth best in the NFL. When you look at their defense, this is where they kind of skew the third down percentage. They give up a lot of third downs, 43.2% right there. Points, they hold teams to points. They 20.6, which is eighth best in the league. Rushing yards, 123.1, which is 19th in the league. That's something that the Detroit Lions can exploit. They're good at stopping the pass, but if you're a quarterback that could do short passing, you could really hurt them right there. But 208.9 yards, which is ninth best in the NFL. Yards per game, 346.8. It's 14th best in the NFL. And when you think about what the Buffalo Bills are good at, the Buffalo Bills are good at just, first of all, Josh Allen's an alien. Second of all, they're not, the short passing game, the short defensive passing game isn't good. So if you could beat him in the short passing game, that's where quarterbacks have had the most success. Obviously, offensively, with the Buffalo Bills offense, you're gonna struggle with them. Obviously, they're gonna get their due. They're gonna get some yards. They're gonna get some points. But your whole objective is to just hold them down as much as you can. Hold them down as much as you can. If you could hold them down, you're going to be fine. But that's what it's going to come down to in terms of the game and such. So that's what it is right there. But I think Detroit has a very good shot to win this game. All right. This is a great matchup for the Detroit Lions. And when you think about the Detroit Lions, like they're gonna get a team that's gonna potentially be a Super Bowl matchup. So you love to see it. But when you look at some of you look at the playoff thing right now, and what the playoff could look at like. So if you win all 4 games, this is from Lions Royalty on Twitter. If you win all 4 games, you have 100% chance that you're obviously going to make the number 1 seed, and you're obviously going to win the division. If you lose one of the remaining games, besides Minnesota, well, Minnesota, you could lose that game too, and you go 15-2, 100% chance of winning this number 1 seed in the division. But if you go to 14-3, that's where the number 1 seeds get skewed. If you lose 2 to Buffalo and Chicago, you got a 76% chance, but 100% chance to win the division. If you lose to Buffalo and you lose to San Francisco, you got a 75% chance at the 1 seed, but you got you still got a 100% chance to win the division. And if you lose to Chicago and San Francisco and you beat Minnesota and Buffalo, you still got a 100% chance to win the division, but a 66% chance at winning the number 1 overall seed. If you drop the last 2 of the year and you win the next 2, which will be a 14-3 record, 41% chance of the number 1 seed and a 63% chance of winning the division. And then you look at if you go 13-4 and you beat the Minnesota Vikings, and that's the only team that you beat, you have 82% chance of winning the division. And then you look at if you lose all 4, but we're not looking at that because we don't want to see that. But when you talk about this team and you talk about what the Detroit Lions are trying to do, the best case scenario for the Detroit Lions is to, go 15-2, go 14-3, beat the Minnesota Vikings. That is the major thing. But if the Lions can just go 14-3, they're obviously going to have some challenges. They're going to have to hope that the Eagles lose at some point. But 15-2 is the way to go. You're gonna you're I would be shocked if the Detroit Lions go 16-1. So 15-2 would be perfect because you still got a 100% chance of winning the number one seed and winning the division because that Packer game was huge in terms of seeding. So this is a huge portion of the schedule. You talk about the schedule and you talk about what the schedule means right now. This is exactly what it means. I mean, just look it up there, and if you're on the podcast, you can go to YouTube. This is going to be a YouTube clip, but you look at the schedule and you look at the way that this whole thing could be skewed. Obviously, the Minnesota game has a lot of importance in this one, but it's a huge part. It's a huge part to this season. Obviously, you look at the schedule, and it sets up for the Detroit Lions to do some special things, but they have to win the remaining games, and that's what it comes down to. So that's what it comes down to in terms of the schedule, where it's going, and the number one seed in the division. You look at those percentages; it's it's in Detroit Lions' best interest to go 15-2. So that is what it is in terms of this. So let's go. All right. Last portion of the podcast, we're going to talk about. There's not much we could talk about. We've talked about everything. Obviously, the Detroit Lions have clinched a playoff berth. They're looking to clinch the NFC number one overall seed. Winning this week would go along. Obviously, we just showed you the graphic of what happens if they win this week and what happens if they lose down the stretch. It depends on a lot of things in terms of the Lions winning and what they're able to do and how soon they can lock it up. And if the Eagles fall to any team down the stretch, that could help the Detroit Lions too. Think of it like this. To get the number one overall seed, the magic number is 3. The magic number is 3. And if the Eagles drop any one of the games that in their future, which they play the Steelers this week, the magic number drops to 2 for the number one seed. And you still got to go beat Minnesota. So if you go beat Minnesota and you beat Chicago, or you beat Buffalo, you beat Minnesota, and those are the only 2 games you win out of this 4-game stretch, you're good. If you win 3 games out of stretch, you're good. You win all 4, you're good. So this is setting up for the Detroit Lions to do some really special things here. All right. We've obviously gone over everything that we've gone over. I will come back tomorrow. I'll post a quick injury thing about the designations that are going to come out tomorrow. Roughly at 4:00, they'll come out. I'll post it probably around 9:00 that night, and we'll go over that. Sunday we will be doing a pregame podcast at Three Kings, which they're doing the tailgate party, December 15th. That's 1414 Griswold in Detroit, Michigan. So if you're going to the game, stop by. I'd love to see you. We'll talk Lions football. We'll have a great time. They're going to have a great thing down there at the Three Kings Sports Cards and Collectibles. Obviously, as we said, Billy Sims is having a customer appreciation day at his Troy location on December 20th and the 21st. You can meet Billy Sims. There's a $6.99 pulled pork sandwich, side, and a drink, which sounds excellent. And a Christmas special, Detroit Lions football is $60 each. You can get signed by Billy Sims, and that's even better yet. But that leads to our big announcement right here. We are going to be interviewing Billy Sims on the podcast. We'll probably push it out December 24th, Christmas Eve or Christmas Day, because it's going to be like a little bit of a 2-day break in terms of the way we post, and then we'll talk about it then. But I'm excited to interview Billy at his restaurant in Troy. We're going to talk a lot of good things about the football. I want to ask him about Jahmyr Gibbs and Dave Montgomery. I want him to ask him about his life as a football player. We'll talk about a lot of great things on the Detroit Lions News podcast with Billy Sims. So Thank you for watching. Obviously, let's get to one more comment. We have one more comment. It's Andrew Harris, and Andrew Harris says, if we lose to Buffalo and win the rest, we win the number 1 seed. Yes, exactly. That's the way it's going to go. So thank you guys for watching. As always, thank you. We will come back on Sunday with a pregame podcast to talk more Detroit Lions football. Obviously, we're going to know the game inactives, the actives. We'll be at Three Kings Sports Cards and Collectibles, and we'll be doing the pregame podcast, and you'll see the live from Three Kings. Well, this is from the Green Bay game, but you'll see live from Three Kings with the Buffalo Bills logo right there. But thank you guys for watching. As always, go to my Twitter account, Detroit Joe Chap. Follow me there. I'll follow you back. Go to the Instagram account, One Pride Detroit. Follow there. Go to my TikTok. I'm going to be more active on TikTok coming up, and at Joe Chap Sports. And we will see you guys in the next Detroit Lions News podcast. We talk more Detroit Lions football here on the Detroit Lions News podcast. Enjoy your night. Go watch the St. Louis Rams and the LA 49ers. I mean, damn, I messed it up. I called them the St. Louis. I call them the St. Louis Rams. The LA Rams and the San Francisco 49ers. And we'll see you guys in the next podcast. We talk more Detroit Lions football here on the Detroit Lions News podcast.